Golf is a major issue right now, and it's just throwing money at everything. Whether it's the BMW Championship purse, whether it's the Tour Championship purse, whether it's the PGA Tour playoff format, whether it's all the elevated events now that you can't even name anymore, whether it's LIV Golf throwing massive contracts to names like Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, or whatever, whether it's the TGL pretending like people care about the money that these teams get when we don't even know who the teams are and why they're teamed, how they're teamed. It's why nobody cares about the match. We've had what feels like 10 matches now, and I think the first one was like around 2017. I remember that one being somewhat cool because it was Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson, and we had never seen it before. And they were kind of chirping each other, and they were chatting it up, and they were gambling. But the thing is, they were gambling for charity. Now that sounds crappy to say, but I don't really care about golfers gambling or competing for charity. That sounds really bad to say. Every year they do a match. Rory McIlroy, Josh Allen. I can't even tell you what last year's was. I can't even tell you what the year before that was. They've tried night golf. They've tried Vegas golf. They've tried everything in the match. And they just, none of it works. The match, TGL, LIV, elevated events, I think people think, or sorry, people don't think. The PGA Tour, it seems like they think people care about how much money these guys are going to get. Like, oh, the purses. Now, the tour had to compete with LIV and the contracts that LIV was handing out to some of these golfers. Like, obviously you have your Phil Mickelsons, you have your Bryson DeChambeaus, but even your Patrick Reeds, your Jason Kokrak's, these guys were paid handsomely. And it makes sense, right? You're either a young kid who just won a USAM, you maybe have, like, you just never know when your next paycheck's coming on the PGA Tour. It's hard to win, it's hard to compete. We know how competitive the tour is. I can't fault a 22-year-old kid for taking a $5 million guaranteed bag. I can't fault a 45-year-old man who's about to retire in 3 years from the PGA Tour for taking a huge bag. So the tour had to compete and give elevated events, right? And it would to be draw more PGA Tour golfers, to draw in your Scotty Schefflers, to draw in your Rory McIlroys, and all of these guys to get them playing and interested in more tour events. And as a result, because you have Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy and these guys playing in events like the Travelers Championship, I think they assumed that the viewership would be the same. Now, I don't care about LIV. I don't watch LIV. When I do, I instantly regret it. The music pisses me off. The PGA Tour is very competitive. I think it's been a very good PGA Tour season. I think name brand wise, it has not been a very good season unless you're like Scotty Scheffler. But if you like golf and you like the PGA Tour, it feels like every single week for the entire year has been very interesting and very entertaining. Now, here's the thing. We're wrapping up the BMW, and it is kind of interesting to see these guys. So there's 50 players at the BMW Championship right now, and only 30 of them advance to the PGA Tour or the Tour Championship, next week in Atlanta. The thing is this, like, you know, I saw Justin Rose did not well. He did not finish well. He finished like +1, +2, or maybe even 4 or 5, whatever it was. Justin Rose's day is already over. By the time I'm making this, the leaders kind of just went off, or they're on hole 4 or whatever it is. My point is this. You don't care that Justin Rose went from 4th to 5th in the standings. Rory McIlroy didn't even play in the first playoff event. Can anybody even catch Scotty Scheffler? All these questions are what come up. So I mentioned this in a short form video the other day, and someone brought to my attention to just make the Tour Championship match play. And I think that would be very cool because storylines are cool. You know, Chris Gotterup did not have a good BMW Championship, and, you know, the broadcast team is kind of following him because he's like on the cusp at 31, and now he's at 32, and it's somewhat interesting. But what I know deep down is Chris Gotterup, if he makes it to the top 30, he has no chance, absolutely no chance of making or winning the Tour Champ. You can win the tournament. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the Tour Championship. So it's all complicated. It's all confusing. Thank God they got rid of aggregate scoring, which means Scotty Scheffler would start at 10 under, and then Rory would be at 9 under, and then Justin Rose would be at 8 under, and Xander would be at 7 under. That made no sense. That never made any sense. So they scrapped it this year. So I'm interested to see, now getting back to the basics, if this year's Tour Champ is going to be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more entertaining. But I do think golf, first off, there's no match play anymore. You know, and the WGC growing up for me, I always liked match play in golf. And the kind of critique people have with the WGC is like, take Sunday for example. There's only 4 golfers on the golf course, all right? You have your first place match, one-on-one match play, and then you have your third place match, one-on-one match play. So there's only literally 4 golfers playing, and as we know, to the ladies, golf takes 8 hours. I'm just kidding, but golf takes 4 hours on average, you know, whether you're on the PGA Tour or whatever. So especially like a tour event, 4 to 5 hours, there's a lot of commercial breaks. All right, on Sunday, the WGC, I don't know if you guys remember, there's a lot of commercial breaks, and it's not always the best watch until we get into, you know, kind of like the back nine, essentially. But anyways, I think the Tour Championship being match play would be very interesting. As you know, the Ryder Cup is in, like 5 or 6 weeks. That's match play, right? Or technically they do a bunch of different things, but you know what I'm saying. It's 1v1, all right? I think the Tour Championship, I think that guy was onto something. I don't have like a format for you. You know, Scotty Scheffler, number 1 in the Tour rankings, takes on Chris Gotterup, number 30th. You know, maybe you give the top 10 a bye. You'd probably do that and then bracket it, something like that. I'm just saying, professional golf is missing match play, and they're just throwing money at nothing, and nobody cares except probably the golfers care a lot because they're not complaining about that. So I think if you want to make the playoffs more interesting, the Tour Championship could be match play. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts on this video.